I want to talk about something that we don't normally talk about on the pod, which is fighting. Let's get it all the way out there. Isaiah Stewart just, cold-cocked Drew Eubanks. They went chest to chest. This is all reported, by the way. Went chest to chest. Isaiah Stewart reportedly just gave Drew Eubanks one. Got arrested and got a citation at the arena. He was let go, but we don't know the reasoning behind this. But I'm just fascinated by obviously fighting, one, and fighting in the NBA, number two, and number three, how it's evolved, right? Because whether we know the reason or not, we don't see things like this anymore. And I feel like back in Raj's day, and maybe a little earlier than Raj's day, this is a bit more commonplace, right?
Just before me.
Just before you? Just caught the tail end of it and then got blamed for it, just kind of, just reputationally, they try to play you.
I mean, we could still get physical, but you didn't see cats getting swung on like to the degree that you did in the generation before me when I played.
Yeah. How have you seen it evolve? Where are we at with fighting in the NBA? What are we thinking about here?
I mean, you're in the safest era of all time in terms of fighting in the NBA. I mean, you're really in the safest era of all time for the most part as a society. Ain't no ramifications.
Yeah.
Like nobody gets checked on the dumb shit. Everybody gets to type and talk like they got a big chest. I mean, am I lying? That's what we live in. That's what the NBA is now. And I don't know what happened.
What happened to the game you loved, Rob?
I mean, David Stern, the Malice in the Palace happened. And then David Stern and TV revenues happened. And the backlash that was viewership not wanting to see, that type of physicality. And we could go into all of that. But that's what happened. So we got to a point where, it's never been safer in the NBA to act like you're tough and not be tough.
When did you, you grew up in the era and came of age in the era, like Oakley was in the league, right? Steven Jackson was just coming into the league, right? You had Ron Artest. You had motherfuckers that, you just didn't fuck around with, right? And now, and I think for good reason, you really, to be fair, you really don't want fighting in the league like this. You don't want to see that. So on one hand, this is a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, it just feels like there's more manufactured toughness in this league, or at least people, think they tougher than they are. What was the difference when you were going up against an Oak or something or in the era that you were coming up in every single day, where there was the threat of some shit could pop off if you don't come up with your P's and Q's, versus this generation that you're seeing from afar, where it's it is a bit more safer. It's a bit more family friendly than it was maybe at some points of the 90s.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the difference is just that. The difference is that Charles Oakley will fight you. Derek Coleman, I watched Derek Coleman after a game in Philadelphia. I'm not going to say who it was against or who he did this to, but I watched Derek Coleman. DC had a locker right next to mine. I watched Derek Coleman come into the huddle, 1, 2, 3, whatever we were saying at the time, go to his locker and sit down. And there's normally a ritual. I mean, you've been in the locker rooms. You sit down, you take a minute, you start to, take your stuff off. You're going to the shower. Derek Coleman started dressing over his uniform. I'm like, what is he doing? So he dresses and leaves the locker room. I go through my post game, come out, leave the arena, and DC is waiting at the other team's locker room for someone to come out because they won't let him in.
Oh.
This person refuses to come out.
Wow.
It was a standoff. So that's the difference. You had to see Derek Coleman at some point, or
with a white tee over his Sixers uniform.
This was straight velour suit, bro. Back when they were big, flowy velour suits. Velour suit over the Philly uniform. I watched Charles Oakley walk up to somebody, I won't say any names, at a jump ball circle while this person has already claimed the spot that he wants at the jump ball circle, and Charles Oakley walk up to him, stand over him, and not say shit, but just look at him. And I watched this dude move. Now, I don't know what the basis of that was, the backstory. I just got to this team. But clearly, there had been some sort of exchange that made it very clear to said individual that Charles Oakley was not fucking around. So that's what you dealt with in the league. There were cats that would really put their hands on you. Like, I've told this story before. When me and Ron Artest got into it, I mean, I'm in the back leaving the arena ready to go with like plans as to how this is going to play out when I see him in this walk out, because I don't know what he's capable of, and I'm not about to go down like that.
Yeah.
Jerry Stackhouse, another one. Like, Jerry Stackhouse would two-piece you in a heartbeat. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he caught my young kid, Kirk Snyder was his name, played for the Utah Jazz. I wasn't on the trip, but by accounts, that were relayed to me, like, I think he might have touched him up after a Mavericks game in the back of the arena. Like, that's what you had to worry about on broad scale from the bullies of the NBA at that time. You just don't have them roaming the locker rooms in the way that you did. It's just kind of been cut out of it. So, you had to be way more selective about how you ran your mouth, how you fouled people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just in general, how you acted, because there were people that would correct they would correct that.
Raja, I'm just thinking about, I'm assuming that the Derek Coleman thing happened in Philly, right? So I'm just thinking about, like, I just came back from there, and how long that hallway is until you got to go to the bus. It ain't like in Philly, it's a good 80 feet from the locker room to the bus. And you're going to have to see somebody. And I'm just thinking about this man, this OG, with his velour on, bro. Also, probably got a fit off because that Sixers jersey was fire back then. And
it was a tough jersey. It was a white,
it was a tough jersey.
Icy white.
It was icy white. You put the whatever, maybe the blue, red velour over that. Yep. So, like, he got a fit off, and he's about to kick you. And then there's no avoiding it because that hallway is so small, bro. That hallway is so small.
So small.
There's one way in, one way out.
It's a long walk. This wasn't young DC like with Syracuse and New Jersey, where he was svelte and trim and like super athletic. This was big bone DC towards the end of his career. So that's a lot of person. And there's not a security guard in the building that can stop him from getting off what he wants to get off. So if you come out of that locker room and you don't have a real good answer for what you did and why you did it, and an apology that supports it, he didn't come out the locker room though. So he wouldn't come out.
Wait, you know what? What I did see though, not heard. There's also there is another exit out of the visitors' locker room. There's a back exit that I just realized. There is a back exit. There's two entrances because there's one to the court. There's two entrances to the court. There's one in the back, and then there's one that's going towards the bus at Wells Fargo Center now. Wow, that's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, man. That was a different. I mean, look, you like basketball, sports in general, right? Like they're just it's competition, man. Like you're gonna have boil over from the time you start playing the game to when you finish playing the game, if you're really competing at it, right? And while I don't condone fighting and I don't think it should have been left in the game and stuff like that, some of it is organic and reaching a boiling point, and guys getting chest to chest and someone crossing a line, that happens from time to time. You just don't have nearly as many people who grew up, kind of in the, you just don't. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But if in that world you run up on someone who is old school like that and you've never run across that species of person before, I mean, you could potentially get run up on, not see it coming, and get popped.
Yeah. We don't have that anymore. We just don't have that anymore. And I just think about like the competitive edge and what you have to do to be on your P's and Q's when that is in the league versus when that is not in the league. Because when it's not in the league, there's a lot of popping off of the mouth, a lot of name calling without repercussions. People say y'all say some wild shit in general. There's no regulation to the wild shit y'all say. And I feel like back in your day, there was some people that was like, I don't get, like Derek Coleman, I don't think he gives a fuck about the fine. Charles Oakley does not care about the fine. Like, run it. Like, it's the principality. There was a lot of principalities of the situation back in your day, Roger.
There were dudes that, I mean, you knew who was faking and who really, how do you say, lived those raps? Like who didn't care about getting the fines? Like everybody kind of knows. Like there are people out there right now that would go down to the layman as living their raps. Motherfucker, I know you wasn't living them raps. You know how I know? Because I checked it. I had to find out.
You know how I know? Because Derek Coleman had you in the locker room.
Yeah. Or like I check you myself. Like, let's find out. Let's see. I'm gonna run up and blast as hard as I can. And let's see that's why I always tell the story about LeBron. Like, for everything that, you know, LeBron doesn't fight and shit like that. But when LeBron and I got, like, when he first came into the league, you know, we used to check young fellas just to see what they were built like. Let's see what you got. And I ran up. I've told this story before. And I blasted him as hard as I could with an elbow as I ran. This is when we were still running like crossers underneath the basket and like floppy action. So I got to run and start. As I'm passing him, I just whang right in his chest. And he looked at me unfazed and just kind of like chuckled. And I said, oh, okay. Like, I got, that's not going to work with you.
Story. I love that story. Because he's 18 years old and you was really trying to G-check LeBron. He was like, hey, okay, I'm 260, bro.
Yeah,
I'm listening at 260, dog.
He was not fazed by that at all.
Like 2% body fat, dog. Watch out.
But like, look, J.R. Smith, another one. Like J.R. Smith and I got into that. And I don't know if I didn't really believe it or not, but like I had kind of forgot. And I put myself in a vulnerable spot going up. That boy tried to ruin my life.
J.R. Smith did?
Yeah, but
did y'all have a chuckle over that after that? I'm sure y'all did. I'm sure. No, also
we did, but that's mutual respect, though, right? Like okay,
he's from Jersey, right?
Yeah,
J.R. Smith don't seem like he's a guy that fucks around. Yeah, he doesn't seem like
it. Yeah. We got it. Yeah. So we understand each other. We're good. Zebo, like that was a bully, man. Like he was. There were some dudes out there that I put Zebo in the class of DC.
Zebo told
Charles
somebody
Oakley
and Zebo said that he bullies bullies. That was his saying. That's what he said and I went to
I had to have my spine checked
after Zebo.
Neck. Yeah, I had to have my neck and spine checked at the Moda Center or whatever it was called.
No, look, back in the day it was a Rose Garden back in the day.
Rose Garden, whatever it was. Yeah. I don't know. I was just a little too light in the ass for those dudes. Like I mean, I'm running around at 6'5", 205.
But you had heart though. I've heard stories about you, Roger. I've heard stories.
I didn't care about a fine.
You never back down from a fade is everything. Is all the stories that I hear. It always ends with Roger did not back down from the fade.
I prided myself on that, and I like I didn't care about a fine either in that way. But there are some people that you're just out of your weight class with. So we had got into some shit, and he caught me like running, chasing, because I was always vulnerable. I'd be chasing somebody, and his big ass like came out of nowhere and just kind of illegal screen shouldered me. And it put me right into the front row. I was near the sideline. It put me right into the front row, and I just felt my whole spine just go. And I was like, oh. I promise you, they had to take me in the back and x-ray my whole shit.
God damn.
But you knew, like, there guys like that existed. When you went to their place, you knew, hey, bro, don't act crazy in here because crazy might catch up to you. It just doesn't exist. This isn't like an old curmudgeon-y pot. I don't even care. But you asked me like what the difference is. That's the difference.
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Just to bring it back to Isaiah Stewart. I don't know Isaiah Stewart, but I do know this. Every time I've seen him, I've seen a couple of highlights of him, or maybe like 3 or 4 highlights of him. And 2 of them things is him fighting and him being ready for all of the smoke. Like, he does seem like he's cut from that old school cloth. Like, you don't fuck around. He's from Rochester. You don't fuck around with Isaiah Stewart.
I think that should be common knowledge at this point. Should be heeded. If you don't act accordingly, like if you ain't ready to do what he wants to do, then you probably need to leave him alone. And I think, okay, this isn't our pod, but that's a good thing. I tell my boys this shit all the time. Hey, look, man, if you don't want to fight
with
somebody,
a healthy fear.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, look, I don't fight. I don't like to fight, or I know that person could beat me, whatever. And in the next breath, I'll tell them, hey, there are times where you might have to take an ass whooping. You just might.
Just
you
off
just
the
might
principality.
have to. Yeah, you just gonna have to tell him, like, hey, he gonna have to beat you, bro. Like, that's life. But it's something to be said for knowing and just being like, you know what? I'm gonna leave that alone.